This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, September 12th show. I bring in studio each week the best of the best experts in our local market on everything regarding your money. I'm here to help you in today's economy. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast. To talk with a guest that I have in studio or with myself, you can call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. In studio right now, first time, Kelsey Diller with City Closers. What do you need to know about our local real estate market? As I'm going to be talking with Kelsey. Kelsey, thank you so much for coming into studio today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am too. A little bit about Kelsey. Kelsey is one of the few real estate brokers under the age of 35 who can claim to have already had 25 years of hands-on industry experience. So you want to know how that happens? That's what happens when you're a fourth-generation broker born into the real estate family from age of 5. That is young. She helped her family renovate and market a variety of real estate investments. Her early commissions were paid in hot cocoa. I'm sure you really enjoyed that at the age of 5. And in 2008, Kelsey, co-founder of Orbit Homes, LLC, and built her first spec house as celebrated for Star Green Build property in West Seattle. Now, Kelsey opened the doors of City Closers in 2010 as a full-service brokerage serving commercial and residential clients throughout the greater Seattle area. Since opening the doors, Kelsey and her brokerage team have closed more than $20 million in sales and leases. Real estate brokers traditionally sign up for one of the industry's big brands to take advantage of the vast corporate databases and deep resources. In today's market, networking and relationship building deliver far more results than the big ads buy. The internet has leveraged the playing field in terms of listings and marketing properties. So City Closers realized Kelsey's vision to have a better broker experience, which results in more personalized client experience. So Kelsey, in hearing people say and talk about the real estate market is really crazy right now, can you tell us what's happening today?
I can. It is absolutely crazy out there, and I'll tell you why. A normal market is 4 to 6 months of inventory, and we have 1.31 months of inventory on market right now. And that's in King County. And what that really means is that if no one else put a home on the market in a little more than a month, there wouldn't be a single home to buy. So this lack of inventory, coupled with low interest rates and finally recovered prices, are pretty much fueling a seller's market. And essentially, this is creating that environment for multiple offers that you probably are all hearing about. And it's not uncommon to receive 10 or 15 offers for a listing and see it sell for 10 to 20% over a listing price, which is fairly dramatic. And this is also causing appraised values to lag about 2 months behind actual sales. But there is good news for homeowners now. We saw a 14.4% increase in the value for residential single-family homes in King County this last year, not including condominiums. And we've finally caught up to the 2007 peak prices, and in some neighborhoods exceeded them.
Unbelievable. And I've always said in real estate, if you don't lose money in real estate unless you're forced to sell in a bad market, it's the people that lost the real estate market or bought at the top, and whether they strategically decided to short sell their property or they got into financial distress and had to give their property back to the bank. If you can make it through that, historical trends will always show that the real estate market is going to recover. So it's just a great opportunity. Now, since, Kelsey, that we're in such a hot market right now, some people that are listening may be asking, are we heading for a boom or a bust?
Well, Tina, in my opinion, no. The circumstances just aren't there for another boom-bust reaction. For example, the recent stock market instability had virtually no effect on the real estate market here. However, prices cannot continue to go up this aggressively forever. And so the way I like to think about it is the economy kind of responds like a pendulum swing when there's one extreme. Prices were inflated in 2007, and the market adjusted itself by going in the other direction. but it went too far in that direction. And so it went in the other direction, which is where we are right now. And so as the extremes get less dramatic, so does how far the swing goes. So as long as we have less than 4 months on market and we have low interest rates and the rental market continues to remain tight, and we have a low unemployment rate in the Seattle area of around 3% right now, we're going to have a hot market. I definitely think we're going to see this pace through 2016 at minimum before things begin to return to a more average range.
Yeah, and average range is still really good appreciation. And it's funny because you mentioned with rentals and the increase in the rental market. Even if you had bought an investment property at the height of the market, if you think about this and you bought right at the height of the market, rents increased incredibly. I mean, the amount of how we've seen rents increase so much. So you still came out really good on that side, even though your property value dropped and now your property values are coming back. It's just an amazing time to get into real estate and investment opportunity. I talked earlier in Money Chat about the ability and being able to leverage in real estate. It's like no other investment. So whether it's a good time or not, you've heard from Kelsey what her advice is. And, ideally we want to buy low and sell high. But the reality of trying to play the market in the real estate, like trying to play the stock market, and then we've got something added in there, which Kelsey mentioned, which as well is the interest rates. Historical low interest rates, they've got to go up at some point in time. I know we've been saying that forever, but at some point in time, these interest rates are going to be no longer, and you'll be kicking yourself looking back and missing out on that opportunity. So Kelsey, buyers are having to compete against crazy multiple offers. Can you tell my listeners how it's affecting the housing prices?
Sure. There's a couple of factors that are happening here. And first off, if you're a buyer out there right now, you're probably getting frustrated at having to shell out $500 for a pre-inspection when you might have a 1 in 10 or a 1 in 15 chance of getting the house. And then your brokers are having to write 5 or 10 offers sometimes before you have a home.
Yeah.
And this demand is driving the housing prices 10 and 20% over a listing price. And unusually, it's also causing appraisals not to come in at purchase price because the market's still lagging. And we're seeing buyers frequently waive appraisals and bring in cash to close, which can be scary for some buyers, but it's how they're winning their bids. Some buyers are getting frustrated at having to overpay or feeling like they're overpaying for a house right now. But just an encouragement to you buyers, the true value of a house is what a buyer is willing to pay for it.
Yep, that's exactly what an appraiser will tell you. How you figure out market value of a property is what people are willing to pay for that home. They've got to come up with comparables, so it does make it challenging, Kelsey, as you had mentioned, because the market is moving so quickly. And I'll say there's a lot of creative things, but you definitely want to get the expert opinion of your realtor on what to do. But I like how, Kelsey, you'd mentioned about the appraisals, because you can go in and make the decision if you want to pay a higher price if the appraisal does happen to come in low. So it's just what you're willing to do to get into that home. And it's up to you as a consumer. You can make that decision. What I would do is call your mortgage professional. If you don't have one, call me and I'll run the report for you, because that's what I do in my full time. And what I'm an expert at is the mortgage arena. But in looking at a cost of purchasing now versus waiting, and whatever you think the assumption would be on interest rates, and even if you thought the market was going to drop, which that is unlikely, if you run those numbers, you'll see that cost is always more important than price, in what I mentioned in the earlier segment in Money Chat. So take a look at the numbers and see how that really is affecting in waiting, and whether it makes sense for you to pay that additional price over value if need be. Now, Kelsey, what other creative things are you coaching your buyers to do, or helping your agents to coach their buyers in this multiple offer competitive market?
Well, we're seeing some downright silly things happen, which is a little bit entertaining. We're seeing buyers, for example, bake cookies for sellers, or go out and purposely meet the neighbors so they know the neighbor's name. I've seen buyers give their wedding albums to their broker for an offer presentation in person.
Wow.
Take note of the seller's hobbies based on what's in the home, and mention how much they like those same things in a seller letter. Buyers are just getting downright creative to get any competitive edge that they can. Unfortunately, 99% of the time, it comes down to price and terms. In this case, more is more and less is more, meaning the higher escalator clause you can put in, the better chance you have, and the less contingencies you have, the more likely your offer will be chosen.
Kelsey, could you break down the escalation clause for my listeners that may not understand what that term is and how it really works?
Sure. Escalator clauses are very common in today's market, and they basically state your highest price that you're willing to pay for the property and in what increments by. So let's say property is listed for $500,000 and you put an escalator clause in there of $600,000 increasing by $2,000. So let's say they get 10 offers and your offer is the best offer. Then they're going to look at number 9, the second best offer, and look at what their top price is. So let's say the second best offer comes in at $590. You're going to end up paying $592.
Yes. So if the listing broker is actually accepting these, because I know a lot of times now they're just going, come with your best and final offer, which kind of defeats being able to do this. But if they're suggesting or not saying that they won't do that, why would not every buyer take advantage of that?
They should. Sometimes if they are not sure it's going to be a multiple offer situation, you do tip your hand by letting the seller know what the top price is that you're willing to pay. And if there are no other offers, you're at really a disadvantage.
Of course. Yep. So if you could give one piece of advice, Kelsey, to the market, what would that be?
I'll go into that. I just wanted to finish on your last question here and just mention the other competitive components that I'm seeing, that all cash offers are becoming more commonplace and are winning. And for those that are getting financing, we talked briefly before about many of them are waiving the appraisals. Most all of them are doing pre-inspections, and they're waiving their right to revoke their offer based on the Form 17 seller disclosure. So it's not only acknowledging that disclosure, but also waiving their right to revoke their offer based on inaccurate information.
Wow.
And then brokers are often removing that 10-day verification clause on the main purchase and sale agreement in Section X, which is really getting down to the nitty-gritty, saying, hey, there is absolutely no way this buyer can get out of this contract, where there are just no loopholes. We will be closing. And then they are including that escalator clause. And then interestingly enough, they are providing seller leasebacks at no cost to the seller. And that is just basically free rent for the seller as kind of a goodwill gesture. Hey, we're going to go over and above to do everything we can to get this house and to make it as easy as possible for you. And the buyers that are willing to do these things are the buyers that are winning.
Yeah, and I saw a contract come over where they said, just leave everything. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, leave all your garbage. Well, which I thought was really creative because that is just like one little extra thing. But yeah, it's so crazy. So if you're listening to the show, worst case scenario, what happens is if any of these things fail or you back out, then you're losing your earnest money. So you've got to just think if that's something that you're willing to do in releasing your contingencies. But when you're not, you're just not getting the home, your offer accepted, which is a frustrating thing. As Kelsey already mentioned, a lot of buyers out there just continuing to go through the process and making offers. And the only support I can give them is they want a home, because I do firmly believe this. If you want a home and you don't give up, your home is going to come together when the right one comes. So,
you're absolutely right.
But easier said than done. I'm not out there in the market trying to deal with all this competitive craziness. So one advice for the market, what would that be?
Oh, that's simple. List your house. And I'll say it again.
There you go.
List your house. We have no houses to sell.
Yeah.
And we have the highest prices since 2007. And if you heard my question before, you know what buyers will do almost anything to buy your home. You'll end up making the most amount of money by selling in today's conditions. And part 2 to this, Tina, is just to get advice on what your home is currently valued at. I think one of the reasons why we have so few homes to sell is because sellers don't really know the true value of their home. They're still thinking they're breaking even or losing money, and they're not aware that a lot of the homes have jumped to $50,000, $100,000 in the last 12, 24 months, and that's a total game changer. So my advice to you sellers would be, feel free to ask me or ask your real estate broker for a free comparative market analysis, find out what your home is really worth today. And I've had sellers on the fence for the last year until I showed them their house jumped $100,000 in value, and suddenly they're ready to press go.
Yeah, and what a great call to action. So if you're listening right now and you actually own your home, whether you're thinking of selling or not, why not get a competitive analysis to find out what the value of your home is and net proceeds to see how much cash that you would be left? So pick up the phone, give the show a call, 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150. I've got a broker owner, expert in the local real estate market sitting in studio with me right here, and she said she would give you a free analysis on your home. So I think it's would be a great thing. And I know I've heard that before, sellers that had no thinking of selling at all, but they've got a nice aggressive realtor out there that are knocking on doors to encourage them to take a look, and they're like, wow, okay, why this would be great. The only downside is you got to be able to find another house if you plan on continuing to buy, maybe relocate to another state. So what about the next 5 years, Kelsey? What's your crystal ball and your predictions say for our real estate market in the next 5 years?
That's a tough one.
I know. Got to ask it.
A lot of people out there are pretty tight-lipped about what they think is going to happen, but I'll share with you my opinion.
Okay.
I think it will depend somewhat on the election process, not so much in policy, but more in perception. Historically, if we have a president that goes into office that is viewed and perceived as a very stable person and unlikely to go to war or make massive economic changes, then the real estate market is likely to reflect that positive, slow growth stability. In general, I do think we are entering a nice, steady growth phase, and that's exciting because we've been in that pendulum swing for so long, and real estate historically really is the most stable and solid investment that you can make. And a 4-year study was released by Dupree and Scott in 2014, stating that rents would remain fairly flat over the next couple of years, but then climbing 7.3% between now and 2018.
Wow.
And we are seeing those rent increases. And as I mentioned before, an indicator of a hot market is a tight rental market. So as those rents go up, we're going to see a competition in the market increase. And you mentioned the Pulse Economics survey of the nationwide panel over 100 economists predicting about a 4% appreciation over 5 years, and then the bearish quartile predicting about 12%. In my opinion, I would predict closer to 5 to 7%,
okay.
And that's more in line with the historical national average. And the reason why I say that is because that pendulum swing is coming back to center, and as it does, it's going to just reflect the averages closer and closer. So what this means is it's a great time to be in the market. It's a safe time to be in the market, and real estate continues to be one of the most stable investments.
Yeah. And if a lot of people have an easier opinion on what they think employment's going to do, but forget that real estate matches employment. It always has.
It follows it.
So if you can, it follows what the employment is doing. So if you have a prediction on what you think the employment's going to do, know that real estate is going to follow that. So newly licensed brokers, I don't, know it's not my arena, Kelsey, and how all these new agents are coming in, but it seems like there's a lot of new licensed agents, and having a broker company yourself, I'm sure that you've been experiencing that. How are they faring in this market with all of this chaos? I mean, you have to be really, 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 really good at what you do to be able to represent your buyers, especially in this market. So how are they doing?
Yeah, to be able to compete. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. They're just getting slaughtered without the help of a team member or a managing broker. There's enough business going around that I would just recommend teaming up with a more experienced broker, and we're seeing more experienced brokers reach out to folks that are interested in more of an assistant position or a showing position or a learning mentoring position. And it's a great opportunity to really gain knowledge from those more experienced brokers. And a large part of what the experienced brokers bring to the negotiating table is market education and offer technique. So there's so many tricks being pulled out in the competitive offer situation. Even knowing how to set your listing up to attract 15 offers is an educational process, and educating your buyers on the current market conditions so that they're aware that they are going to have to go 10, 20% over listing price, and this is normal. And if they don't believe you, that's okay, but you're going to have to put in 20 offers and have them all be denied before they understand that. So teaming up with a more experienced broker is key. I've seen new brokers have really early success in our office by pairing up with 1 or 2 brokers per client. Now, however, is the right time to enter the industry, but you will hit the ground running. So get ready to listen, take notes, and be a quick study.
Yeah, what a great advice. Observe, watch, learn. So how's the market doing in commercial sales and leasing, Kelsey?
Well, the core Seattle market, and that's the market I'm most familiar with, is hot for standalone commercial buildings and in the core Seattle neighborhoods. And it's right about 1 million and under. Those are going overnight. We're seeing that because there's an opportunity to get an SBA loan for 10% financing with owner occupancy of 51% or more. So that's a hot commodity. We are seeing good but conservative capitalization rates for investment properties, and there's only a handful of properties that are 9% caps and over, and usually they have deferred maintenance or other issues. The retail sector is the first sector to suffer under a hard economy and the last to come back under recovery. Vacancy rates for offices right now are holding at about 10%, and the market is continuing to absorb inventory. The secondary and tertiary markets are still lagging behind and seeing longer days on market, but there's a substantial amount of new construction in the downtown core area for apartment buildings. And that's showing that developers are confident for demand, that demand is up for rentals, and we're having strong employment in the core areas. We're seeing the big employers build office buildings for their own increased workforces, such as Amazon's expansion in South Lake Union and other medical firms.
Got it. Kelsey, we've got about 30 seconds. I've got to wrap up the show here today, but I want to ask you a question. Are you hiring new realtors right now for your firm?
Yes, absolutely.
I knew you were. That's why I want to say this. If you're interested in getting in real estate, give Kelsey a call. Kelsey, what's your web address?
www.cityclosers.com.
There you go. She's an expert. She's one of the best out there in bringing in new agents. Got an amazing company that she's put together. And Kelsey, thank you so much for coming into studio. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. It's been my pleasure.
And this is your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, signing off for the day. Gotta go, but I'll be here next weekend, same time, same place, right here on 1150 AM KKNW. Have a great weekend. Thanks for listening to the show.